you paid him like 750 hours, something like that.
Mhm.
Of like 10 hours of that's 7K, 8K nearly.
Yeah.
But that, if you did the percentage of it, if you know it's big specific number, would be a very, very, very high number. Like the return on investment, like 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000%, something crazy like that. Like there's way too many numbers for my head to do any of that math. This is going to be a step-by-step guide of how to start an online business and generate money fast. And why don't we just get straight into it, Nicholas? How did you get started with business? And also tell us a little bit about specifically what you do.
Yeah. So the business that I'm doing now and devoting all my time to is helping CrossFitters or just really anyone active rehab their shoulders, because my background as a chiropractor, made a quick turn around after school to kind of go down an online path, just because I felt like I could help more people. And my main focus is more towards rehab, movement, and just figuring out ways that I can help educate people how to fix themselves rather than relying on other people. Again, it started pretty quick after I got out of school, worked for a little bit for an associate, but I always knew that I wanted to own my own business. And life happened, ended up that the online space has been really a great twist and a great change of pace. I now have the location freedom to help people all over the world without having to kind of settle down in one place.
I love that, especially how specific your niche is.
Yes.
And the reason why I introduced this podcast in the way of fast, how to actually generate revenue fast in your business or money fast, is we spoke last time and you started in September last year.
Yeah, September was my first month that I had a client that I was working with, but August was like when the wheels hit the ground when I just started. Yeah, so pretty recent.
Well, not even a year. Well,
no, not even.
My journey took a bit longer than that. Generating and then just building up that network and just not want to say serious enough, just not knowing what actually I got myself into. Yeah. And all the things that it does require. So what do you think is the reason that you overcame this challenge a lot faster than most other people do?
I would say getting help. I think I invested in a coach really early on, pretty much at the start of business, because I knew just hearing a lot of mentors and just people on YouTube, it's like you can either pay with time or you can pay with money. And so fortunately, I had some money saved up so that I could invest in hiring a coach. And I mean, not everyone has the luxury of having those resources, but if you can, just find a mentor, find somebody that can help you, that's been where you want to be. Even if you have to work for free for them, just figure out a way to learn from somebody that's where you want to be, because the amount of time you'll save learning from somebody else that took the time of their life can help you pick up pretty quick.
So in the sense of mentors, I understand they're very important. I think most people understand they're very important because everybody has experienced mentorship to some extent. If it's a parent, if it's a teacher, somebody has been a mentor in some way to them. But in business, you just don't go out and ask the billionaire or the millionaire for that reason. You want to be my mentor. They're most likely not going to say yes unless you're very lucky. Could happen. So how did you actually approach the mentors you referred to?
So I would say throughout, while I was still in school, people had always said, like, reach out, go shadow, like as a chiropractor or in physical therapy, pretty similar. Like you want to go out and meet these people. In the chiropractic world specifically, a lot of chiropractors are entrepreneurs. So they usually start their own business and people love talking about themselves. So it's a little bit easier to go into a chiropractic clinic and just say like, hey, I'd love to shadow you, learn about your business, because people love to tell their story and what's going on. With my mentor specifically, he actually got me. He's been on Instagram for quite some time, ended up starting to do coaching, and I found one of his videos and another ad, and then the algorithm gets you. So that's how I found him, and it's been amazing.
Good point. Very good point that you make there. People love speaking about themselves. Great way to approach people.
Oh, yeah.
And then playing into that ego a little bit. telling them how good they are. People are like,
Yeah.
oh, even though they know they're good, they still like that pat on the shoulder. Everybody does. Actually, talking a little bit about ego, because you referred to you can either use time or money. I've known that to be true now, but hearing a lot of people speaking about it, I was like, yeah, right, I'm different. I'll figure this out. Easy. That was kind of the things that went through my mind as I recall. Didn't that like ego part come up to some extent?
I try not to. Like, I know that I think once I got into the world of business and just started watching, Hormozi's a big one. Like, you just think about the scale that they're running things. It's just like a whole nother like breed of monster. Like, the amount of money that they can generate in a month is like unfathomable at the time when I started. And I'm like, how can an online business be making more than like 10,000? Like 10,000 is kind of the checkpoint of most businesses, but some people are doing 100,000, 200,000, $1 million months. And it's just like, wow, that is like, there's something to learn there for sure.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I do remember a clip I saw of specifically Alec Mahosi recently talking about the best investment that he ever made, which was very early in his career. He reached out to somebody saying, teach me how to do, or can you teach me how to do Facebook ads?
Yep.
And at first the person was like, I don't do that. And he was like, how much? Everybody got a price. And then I think he paid him like 750 hours, something like that.
Mhm.
Of like 10 hours of that's 7K. 8K nearly.
Yeah.
But that, if you did the percentage of it, if you know his big specific level, would be a very, very, very high number. Like the return on investment, like 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000%, something crazy like that. Like there's way too many numbers for my head to do any of that math. So in that way, is there other, besides like the Alex Mahosi, other good people you like to follow for business?
Yeah, I think the most recent book that kind of changed my mindset and changed the way that I run business is Dan Martell. He wrote the book Buy Back Your Time. And so just the playbooks or his words of standard operating procedures, just making those with kind of recording yourself doing it and coming and putting it into checklists and just coming up with a course of what needs to be done. And then just trying to finding your hourly rate that you can buy back your time. And so back in January, I hired my first employee, Leilani, and she's been amazing. Like that, I think she's a huge part of why I had such a great January, is because she took over so many things that she's great at and I just don't like doing. And so it was a great match, and she's been doing amazing.
I should have known that for the intro. I had first employee within like August. That's just half a year in that.
Right.
Which
yeah.
I didn't even make money in the first 6 months. So I think it's impressive. There might be some people out there that think, yeah, that's good for you guys. I did 10 million the first 6 months. In that case, I would very much like to speak to that person. I would love to have them on the podcast. Just ask how.
Yeah,
Let them clap on for 30 minutes. That would be wonderful. So in that way, how do you go out and identify the things you should hire an employee first? Is it the things that suck the most? Or did you have another metric?
Yeah, so there's in his book, I mean, he like that was probably the best book I've read in probably of my life, I think, at this point, just because it hit so close to home and it was like exactly what I needed to hear. He goes through kind of step by step on how he generally hires and giving them like a introduction video that they record just to kind of make sure that they have all the technological, they can read an email and figure out how to send it to you in the right format, and then giving them test projects to do. So things that they're actually going to be doing on their day-to-day tasks and just see how they perform and base it off that. And then obviously the interviews.
So for some people, it's a fun part. Other people, not so fun.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the person you're interviewing with. I've had some fun ones and not so fun ones. I very, very vividly remember one where the guy, every time I said something, like every minute, he said yes, like he heard what I said. But when you're sitting having a 30, 45-minute conversation and the other person says yes every minute, that yes just becomes very, very annoying. It feels like they're not listening to you because they're just, yes, yes, yes. Or so quick tip for the person that's thinking about hiring someone, don't do that. You're going to scare them away because I'm not working with this guy. This is going to get on my nerves. But I really actually do like that book recommendation because I'm going to have to check it out myself. It's not one that I've experienced yet. But it sounds like, everybody would like a bit more time. Just before we got on here, talked about how my next week just looks hectic already. Normally, the weeks gets hectic when it kind of in the weekend. So when you just fill out the last bits and bobs and, okay, what should I get done like that Sunday? Normally not we're recording this on a Thursday. It doesn't happen so often. Well, it's good. It's good. We shouldn't be complaining about things getting hectic as long as it's the right kind of busy, which kind of leads me into another question. How do you make sure you spend your time on the right things that actually has a exponential outcome instead of just an okay?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I had a couple calls this morning as well with some other business owners because that's something that I am currently working on. And so like I'm at a point where like January was a crazy month and now we're having the ebbs and flows of business here in February. And so I'm just trying to figure out where I should spend the most time because I'm looking at, again, another potential hire. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to space out my time. I do the whole calendar blocking, which has been probably, I want to say 2021, I started calendar blocking. So I have pretty much from wake up to bedtime blocked out so that I can kind of know exactly what I'm doing. But in those times, it's changed quite a bit. So about what I need to focus on. So still figuring it out.
Yeah, for me, it's that calendar blocking thing. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. When I'm more at the ground level of things, trying to create a bigger project, I actually prefer not to do it. Or when I'm like very early into doing something because my calendar blocking is way off. And I do way better of just writing down a list in the night before, the morning, of what am I going to do today that's going to make the day successful. I could probably just write down one thing because that's, you just, how do I do this one simple task? It wasn't very simple at all. It took 3 days all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Which, if I do too much calendar blocking, that's more, okay, I have client work, that kind of stuff, like very important things when it's not really that whole creative side of it. And in the way of growing your business, keeping on track before I completely go off subject, what would you say is the main lead source?
The main what? Sorry?
The main lead source. So in your business, what is the main source that generates the incoming leads?
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm solely on Instagram, which I'm trying to diversify. That was one of the annual goals to make sure that I have more than one platform. I started on Instagram, started organic just by posting. And then with my first mentor, we started doing ads. And then I got another business coach to help me a little bit more with organic. So they're both kind of growing at the same pace now. I think last month was like probably 60-40 from ads and organic. But Instagram is my number one. Following, again, Hormozy is like a huge mentor. So the rule of 100, we're doing at least 100 DMs out a day, just trying to make sure that there's consistency and just, yeah.
Now I see where the quick growth comes into most other people. You just took their rice and ran with it, where most people take those first 6 months trying to, can I just do 10? Or in the start, just to get that experience and do about 100 is a good number because it's achievable, but hard enough that it's actually going to require some effort. And I do want to talk more about Instagram, but now that you talked about you have other business coaches besides the first one that you hire, how many business coaches do you have or coaches do you have in your business?
I've had a total of 3. I'm working with 2 right now.
Oh, okay. I was all of a sudden expecting a number. I've had like 15. Just whipped
I've
out
only
of
been in
like
business for a couple months, so
oh,
not enough time for that.
Most people I would say that, but you keep surprising me in the good way. Well, it's if you have the money to hire a bunch of business coaches, then go out and do it. Because sit there, watch them how to do it, and then you become an expert yourself. That's a lot quicker than going to ChatGPT and Google, because the info is a bit iffy, and if you're gonna get the exact right thing, and then you're not, they know all of the stuff you don't know, so the project doesn't all of a sudden become 3 times longer than you estimated. But you also, in the way of growing your business fast, of course, you used Instagram, and you actually got 10K follows in like 6 months. Which, when I hear most people talk about Instagram, is, oh, this is hard and a lot slower than the other platforms. How did you do it?
I have no idea. I had I posted every day was the number one metric.
Good start.
I think I missed like the month of, I think August, I took off just to try and rebrand, figure out where I was going to go. That's when I took the switch to the shoulder specific and towards CrossFitters. And that I think was probably the biggest game changer, was niching down to shoulder and CrossFit. So I get people in all sorts of other related topics, but when they come in, most people, when they follow me, I know that either they have shoulder problems or they CrossFit, or some combination of the two, which makes it a lot easier as soon as they see my page to hit the follow. And then also the coach in the middle that I had, that I'm not working with anymore, was a huge help for me to learn how to grow my Instagram.
The specificness is probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
You're not trying to help everybody like, this is what I'm going to do this very well, which makes you more unique in the space of fitness influencers on Instagram. If we're going to put it very broad, there's a lot of them. It's
sure.
kind of like your coaches on LinkedIn. If you start making content on LinkedIn more, you'll definitely see what I mean, because Jesus, there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. That's whenever if it's a coach, fitness influencer, don't try and fall into those niches. Or don't try to fall. It's not, you don't want to fall into those niches. You don't want to be just that. Don't want to be just a coach. Try to use other words of actually describing yourself. You never heard Nicholas so far before I said it now, saying he's a fitness influencer. He helps people with their shoulders and CrossFit.
Yep.
Doesn't really try to use that word and kind of that blue ocean strategy, talking a little bit into the sales. It's no reason to compete with a whole lot of people. You want to create your own little space. And in the way of creating content every day, I do the same thing. It's a little bit easier. I do a lot of it is repurposed, so I don't have to sit there and create a specific new piece of content like every day from scratch. How do you keep the creativity up?
Yeah, so a lot of it, the goal is for me, I've never really enjoyed social media. It's just something I know I needed to do. Everyone that I've really talked to in the social media space is like, you don't need to come up with an original idea from scratch every time. And so you can take something that's done well already and repurpose it, rebrand it, do everything in your own spin to it. And so that's what I've tried to do pretty much since I did that rebrand, is just look around, figure out what's doing well already, and how can I change that to be about shoulders, about CrossFitters, about me, just to make sure that it doesn't get, again, drowned in the ocean, but also I don't have to have the creativity every day to come up with a new idea, even though there's a time and place to play around with that.
For sure. And when you say new ideas, I assume you go around looking at like what does well. You go around looking at what does well for other people. Like, okay,
for sure.
What has these people done? How can I implement it into my own thing, and make it about, as you said, shoulders and having that proven method. So most good ideas is not necessarily like new things. Like when the car was first made, they just took some metal and took wheels, was invented, and took an engine, was invented, and just boop, new thing. It's not like the specific parts wasn't necessarily new. We had them all before, but then once you make them mix them together, all of a sudden, new, very exciting, revolutionary idea.
For sure.
Which is how the best ideas came up.
Yeah.
At least you can have a lot more ideas like that. In the way of like fitness, Instagram, and recording videos, because recording videos every day, sometimes you don't feel like filming. You don't feel like filming every day. And if you tell me you do, I'm going to have a very hard time believing you. Might be true, but I'm going to have a very, very hard time believing you. So what do you do in those off days?
Yeah, so I think if you looked back at my page, you'll notice I'm a little sneaky. I do really big batch recording days and then repurpose that as often and as much as I can. I've been feeling a little bit I've had a sore throat for way too long. I'm about to get it checked up. I've got an appointment scheduled. But the talking head and the YouTube long form videos is next on the list so that I can repurpose from that as well. But if you look back at for a while now, it's just my goal is to spread the information, the B-roll, the kind of behind the scenes, the videos have all kind of been repurposed for quite some time. So hopefully no one's caught along.
Well, let's not share this specific part on Instagram then. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure they're going to go back and check. But most people that stay consistent on social media, they batch record. Some people go to the effort of actually changing their shirts. Let's say they're going to record 5 videos. They're going to find 5 different shirts.
Yeah.
Then you're just going to change the shirt to change the necklace or something.
Yeah.
For each new video. No, we don't. I've never gotten to that extent. Like, the chance of people like seeing that video, especially let's say it does very big. Like, most people are not going to see all the other videos, all the other pieces of content. And on most channels, most of the viewership is new viewers because it keeps trying. So to me, that's like one of those one of the things we just have in our mind doesn't really implement into the real world as a real thing.
Yeah. So I've seen some people that have said like, you want to have a brand. So like going back to Dan Martell, he wears the same blue every video. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, I should probably do that. Because I used to do outfit changes. And then I realized I could just do one color. So my gray shirt, this is the gray shirt that I wear in the videos. So that's why I wore it today.
The gray video shirt. Somewhat similar. I try most of my conversations at least having a nice jacket on or something that has a color to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because I learned at a very young age that if you dress like you know what you're talking about, people are going to assume you know what you're talking about. For example, back when I used to make a lot more videos for TikTok, TikTok is still a thing in Denmark. It's still allowed and live and well and all of that. So this is not just very old content that you're seeing, the person listening. It's not. It is still relevant. But I had a person that actually went into a comment section of like, why is this rich kid just talking about all of this stuff and this mindset thing? So I was like, I don't know why you assume I'm rich. At this point, I'm still living with my parents. Like, you have a different version of rich than I have. But just because I spoke confidently and I looked like somebody that had the shit together, they were like, he's rich.
Yeah. I'll take it.
First assumptions they get, it's a compliment. Very good compliment.
Yeah.
I appreciated it. But they can definitely fool you. And why not play into that? Fitness niche, you might not want to show up in a jacket and a dress shirt, all of that stuff might look out of place in the gym. Although, talking about out of place in the gym, and this just came into my head out of nowhere. Have you seen the videos of the cleaning guy that goes around in different gyms with that like 32 kilogram mop, whatever that is, and just like puts on more weight than all the bodybuilders and then looks like it's a regular, just not even him trying to do his max. He's just chilling, having a good time.
Yes, I have. That is he's funny. He's
That's
so strong, man.
Yeah, I'm like, what? You can't even see it. He has that, what we'll call, at least over here in Europe, farmer strength.
Yeah.
Like, they don't look very strong, but Jesus Christ, you don't want to get in a weightlifting competition, one of those people. Like, apparently really can't fall.
Yep.
Since you actually also are a shoulder guy, personal tip I'm going to ask. Up here, the back, just the lower part of the shoulder. I have
This
some
is why we're
implementation.
here.
Yeah. That's the real reason why I got here. I have some implementation. Any good recommendation for that lower part of the shoulder to get it stretched out?
What you're talking about here, kind of in like the
Yeah,
lat
exactly.
region.
Exactly.
Yeah. So typically there's some good stretches that you can do. I'll send you some videos that we can either stretch the lat. There's also another muscle called the serratus anterior that's a huge part of rotating the shoulder blade or the scapula that we can start to either activate or strengthen. That can kind of help sometimes alleviate, because sometimes a weak muscle can feel tight. And so if you're feeling tightness in that region, those are kind of the first two that I'll kind of go for and figure out is either or working. If not, we'll kind of do like a full assessment, try to figure out what's really causing it so we can fix it.
Well, I'm going to make sure to also have the links to those videos down below. So it's not just
Awesome.
an answer. Actually, if the person said, oh, damn it, I have the exact same problem, then they don't feel cheated out.
Yeah. Cool.
In that kind of way, how do you, let me reword that. What would be the, like, one thing you would like our audience to take away from this conversation?
These are really good. When the podcast happens and it's like always like a recap of it at the very beginning, that's good. I have no idea. I've thought about this. I have no idea what the number one. Should have come up with this.
Give me 2, 3, and 4 if you remember those better.
More so like just do it. I mean, it's really boring advice, but you have one life, you have one opportunity. Like you can mess up a bunch of times, and most businesses don't work the first time, and that's okay. You're going to recover. Like, this isn't my first business, and it may not be my last. It probably won't be my last. But if you just put in the effort and be there, show up consistently, and try to separate yourself from the outcomes, and just really focus on the input, good things will happen.
Sometimes the boring advice is the best. I think one of the best pieces, not necessarily the best bit of business advice, or what I got was, business is about doing the same repetitive thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, when I got that piece of advice, probably what stuck to me so much, I was always trying to come up with these new exciting things. There always had to be something new and exciting to happen, which then you kind of just lose track of keeping what's important going and just keep doing the things that works.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be complicated, and doing the things that people don't want to do, generally where the big money is made and the big growth is made within business. At least it's probably easier going out and doing what you don't want to do and what most other people don't want to do than going in and doing what everybody else, including yourself, really want to do.
Yeah.
It's
the shiny object syndrome.
Exactly. You probably didn't start on shoulders from the sound of it. That was not like the first, I want to help people with their shoulder.
Yeah, it was broad. It was anything that I could think of. We were ankle, hip, knee, low back, neck. I was trying to post everything for everyone, and it was just slow. It took me from start to 5 months took me from 0 to like 600 followers, and then the same 5 months going forward took me from 600 to now I think 11,000. Just from that switch.
Yeah, keeping it focused and doing one thing or a couple of things very well. I think that's probably the lesson that I think from this specific conversation would have been the one thing I was like, I wish somebody just took a hammer and absolutely battered that into my head so it stuck. It didn't jump out in that kind of way. Because, I had this thing when you said something, entered my brain, then it kind of exited. Then we had a just brief back and forth. Then it came back in. And then as soon as I was, now it's on to that bit, back up. Normally I'm quite good with that stuff. But apparently it's not important enough. Yeah. So instead, the person that's listened to us for about 30 minutes, they're probably interested in you and what you're doing. So what would be a good place for them to find you? I imagine Instagram, which is we're going to have down below, but is there some specific things they should check out on your Instagram or other places that they can go?
Yeah, so I just try to post every day about shoulder pain, ways to fix it, things that you might be missing in your traditional rehab. You can find me on social media at Dr. Nick Ing, and I'll hopefully have a YouTube channel out pretty soon. If you want to look at my website and check that out a little bit more, it's theshoulderrx.com. That's the name of the business that I've been running, but I just try to keep the personal brand of Dr. Nick Ing on Instagram. But you can find me there. If you have any questions, reach out to me in the DMs and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Well, that website link is also going to be down there below, including the link for our free courses. And probably some people are curious for this question, so just round it out and exit it out after that. But how old are you, actually?
I am 27.
And a doctor. Fuck
yes.
me. Fuck me. This idea, you don't mess about. Like, that's... We're the same age. You're a doctor. Jesus. I am glad my parents don't listen to this podcast, because that would be disappointment. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Nick.
That's too funny. Yep. I had a great time. Great first podcast. And I really enjoyed it.